Hi everyone, this is going to be kind of a semi-quick Unity tutorial based around iOS development for it. I'm just using the regular standard free Unity license, but this applies and will work and can be tested on your PC, so you can do it on whatever platform you want. It's kind of a universal procedure. So basically I have my empty kind of just blank Unity scene starting out. My camera, I've set my background to black. I've undocked this window and set the aspect ratio to 3:2, which is the iPhone's aspect ratio. And you can see on my screen here I have 960 by 640, so I have iPhone 4 resolution. Basically, by scaling like that, there's iPhone 3GS resolution. So that's kind of how you can preview it, exactly how things will lay in the screen space, and it's accurate. So basically I just kind of keep this docked right here loose so I can scale it up. Okay, so in my scene I basically have two of my UI textures that I want on my screen at all times while I'm playing. Brake pedal and a gas pedal, so it's like a truck driving game. I set these textures to GUI when I come in here, and I set them to true color, and I just make sure the max size is big enough, because if you make it too small and hit apply, it actually distort it. If it's like a 100-100 texture, it actually scales it down. So you just want to make sure you encompass its true size. By setting it to 256, it gets its true 100 by 100 pixels. The file sizes on these 39 KB are really small for UI stuff, so you're not going to like kill your VRAM or your texture memory or whatever on the iPhone with 100 KB and 50 KB and 30 KB textures. So uncompress them. If it's your UI and it's something they see all the time and it has to look good, keep it uncompressed. So we have these. We want to be able to use these in our scene here and in this window as GUI textures. So the best method for that is to select a texture you want and go Game Object, Create Other, GUI Texture. We did the brake, we want to go do the gas, Game Object, Create Other, GUI Texture, and there they are propagated in my world. Now we need to adjust some things on the settings, and all of it's going to be basically in the pixel inset. There's some good things in here like the width and height that we can actually script to tweak this, and you can see what effect it has in the screen window, and it's pretty powerful. These X and Y insets, we don't need them. This was designed to help people have fluid layouts with their UI and stuff on PC gaming, supporting like multiple resolution monitors and different aspect ratios and all that, and it basically allowed them to inset UI elements a certain pixel distance from the edge of the screen. So we have a fixed resolution and everything on the iPhone devices, so we don't have to worry about multiple monitor resolutions and all that. So we zero them out, and we do all of our movement of where we want it via the world transforms up here, the X and Y's. So just tweak them kind of into place. You can put yours wherever you want to put them. It really doesn't impact the power of what you're going to see in the tutorial. Okay, we'll do 08 for that one too, but I just like them neat for things. So we can see that these GUI textures are right where I'd want them to be at 960 by 640 on basically the Retina iPhone, and they're the right scale and proportion and position on screen. They won't move, they won't change size. That's the size they're going to be. And you can see I've created them basically 100 by 100, 90 by 185 at the resolution I would need for this size of a screen, 960 by 640. Usually to get the right size for my icons and UI, I'll go in Photoshop and create a blank document that's 960 pixels by 640 pixels wide. And then I'll start drawing little colored squares and filling them in, and using Photoshop's info palette to see how many pixels big they are, and then I determine how large I need to make my buttons. And basically with this technique, you're going to make all of your Retina, iPhone 4, 4S textures first, and then we're just going to use the GUI texture properties of width and height here to basically scale them down for 3GS. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go Game Object, Create Empty. And normally you'd have to go under here and reset position or whatever to remove data that, you get weird numbers in here. It doesn't reset at 0, but it's resetting at 0 for me, so I'm having a good day. And I'll call this device detect. Really doesn't matter what you call that object, just as long as you know when you're looking in your hierarchy, you know how to find it, and what it means. Now the next thing we need to do is I have an empty scripts folder here. I'm going to go create. I right mouse button on that, and I went create JavaScript. It wants a name, so I'm going to click it like twice to get it to let me rename it, and we'll call it device detection or something, just so we know it applies to the device detection. I'm going to hit this little edit button right here, and we're going to start writing our script. I'm going to just strip out this silly. When writing any scripts for the iPhone, you always want to do # pragma strict. You can look this up on Google. Pragma strict, Unity script, blah, all that. Basically, it's just a form of when you type in a variable or type an object in the script, you have to like explicitly define what it is. Is it a GUI texture? Is it a piece of collision? You just can't let it kind of infer what it is, because the PC version of Unity will do, I believe it's dynamic type inference or something, and it automatically will know what the type of the object is you are. But the iPhone, you save some calculations and some speed by telling it ahead of time. I'll show you here. So the first thing we want to do is create a variable. And a variable sounds all crazy, like scripting crazy and all that. But it really isn't. It's just like sort of a container for an object is what I think of it as. So like I need 2 of them because I have a brake pedal here and a gas pedal here. So a variable, you type var, and then I can call it anything I want. So I'm just going to call it gas button. You can call yours fire button, whatever. And then it's a type of GUI texture. And there we go. I'm going to hit Control S and save it. And that's our very first variable. And basically it's saying, okay, we're going to define this gas pedal right here. And what it's going to do, since it's just var, and it's a public var, so in the Unity inspector, when you assign this to something, it's going to create an empty slot that you will drag this GUI texture into. And then it'll say, all right, this is a GUI texture, and it is this gas pedal on screen. So then it knows how to do stuff with it, like functions and things. So just variable is sort of a container. And since I saved it, we'll go over here. There's our device detection script. We're going to just drag it on over to the device detect MB game object. And there's our script attached to it. It's nothing in the world. It's just an empty, vacant thing that holds it in the world so it works in our scene. And basically, you see this empty slot right here for a GUI texture. And it's actually asking for one to help you identify called gas button, because in my script, that's what I called it. You could call it anything, and it's best to call it something that'll help you say, oh, gas button. So it's probably this gas pedal GUI texture over here. It also lets you know that there's nothing in there and that it wants a GUI texture type, which we just so happen to have. So we grab it with the left mouse button, hold down, and drag it in. Now our device detection thing knows that this gas pedal variable right here, this container, is this gas pedal right here, this GUI texture that's in the scene. So it knows how to do things with it. So we're going to go back to our script. We're going to say, oh, we got a brake pedal too. So let's go var brake button, and it's also a GUI texture. Now this typing out this GUI texture stuff, that's pretty much establishing the type of variable that has to do with that pragma strict. So I'm going to hit Control S. We have our 2 containers in the script. I'll give it a sec. There's our brake button. It wants it. Let's give it the brake button. You can add as many of these as you like. Like I could go, oh man, I need a pause button, and it's going to be a GUI texture too, as well. And I want it to know where the pause button is. It's going to open up an empty slot there for that. We actually don't have to fill it. The script's not going to crash or go crazy. We don't need to assign it just yet. We can leave that variable there in case we need to come up with a pause button in the future, and any other kind of button, exit button, pause button, fire button, defend yourself button. So now the very first thing we need to do is come up with something that these buttons are going to do, or something that's going to be done to them rather in this script. So right now what we want to do is script like we know what the gas button is and the brake button is, and we know that they're these GUI textures and they're hooked to the script because we plugged them into the slots. So now we want to make what's called a function, which is basically like a function, like when you go to a school function or a work function or something, and everybody's doing something. Well, this function's going to basically be these things doing something or something being done to them in this case. So basically the first thing we want to do is we want to type function, and we're going to type running 960, and then we're going to I'm going to hit enter, open bracket, close bracket. Now you saw that function update that I deleted earlier, and that comes default in all scripts. It would look like that. And then there's also, now we're not going to use these, but okay, so function update that was in there by default is a function that basically will run things. It runs functions and does things like every frame and every second constantly, like physics calculations or touch inputs or raycasts. Like when you're touching the screen or pressing the key, it needs to check every single frame and second that the key is depressed or the key is not depressed. Function start, actually we have a little backwards because it usually goes in front of your update. Function start is kind of what it says. It's like when this script very first starts, it's the very first thing that happens. So if you want to establish some things right off the bat, like before we get into update, in function start I could say, hey, do I want this gas pedal visible or not visible? And function start is where you would very first establish that, I can't think of the word for it. You would establish the elements at first, and then update is kind of where they would be updated or changed as we went. Now function running 960 is actually a custom function I just made up. You just type function before it, and then I come up with the name running 960 because I want to say, hey, this is going to do something if I'm on a device running that's 960 pixels wide in screen width. So inside of these brackets are where we put what we want this function to do. So we're going to say return screen dot width equals 960, and basically that's saying, hey, return to us the information, give back to the script, me, Unity, is the screen width equal to 960 pixels? Is it that or greater? Whatever. And so that way we know. And this is also so how we can see it work in the editor, because that basically depends on, is this screen 960 wide or is it 480 wide? So we're saying return that information to us. I'm going to remove those empty spaces, and then I'm going to select all of this because I don't like typing that much. Hit enter. I'm going to go down, copy it for another version, and you can guess this one's going to be, hey, is it running a device that's 480 pixels wide in screen width? And we're going to put 480 here. So we're saying, hey, return to us if it's 960 pixels wide, return if it's 480 pixels wide. I.e., we can comment it with 2 forward slashes. It's how you make little notes that aren't going to be processed by the script, and say, this is the Retina screen, and this is the not so cool screen. I don't have a device that has Retina on it. I have an iPad too, but it's not Retina. I'm going to hit Control S to save as we go, and that lets you know that, hey, it's returning back the information to us if the screen is as wide as 960 pixels, or is it wide as 480 pixels? Now we have to say, okay, well, if, and then we're going to type in that first function, 960. Now, if you're running 960, we've got our little brackets, something happens inside of that. We're going to tell it to do something. And so basically this is the function, and it's inside another set of curly cues here. It's just how it's written out in this kind of script language or whatever. But inside of it is that running 960 function that's right here, where it's looking for that screen width. And so we say, hey, if it's running that, if it is running 960 and it is 960 pixels wide, we want to take our gas button and we go .GUI texture, and we go pixel inset dot width equals, and then we're going to put something inside of these braces, and we have to close it always with a semicolon. I'm going to save it. We're going to go look at our, let's see, gas button, which is this gas pedal, 90 by 185. So we know that it's 90 wide. Again, I don't like typing so much. I don't want carpal tunnel. So I'm going to copy and paste. And we need to tell it the height, which was 185. Hit save. Okay, so basically in this part of the script, it didn't save. I'm saying, hey, if you're running at 960 wide, pixels wide, in this function up here, it's returning that info if it is, then take this gas button, which is this right here, take that slot we plugged in for gas button, this is how we identify it down here, which is a GUI texture, use its pixel inset, which was these, stupid Unity, these values right here, and set them to basically their default values they're at now because they're already at Retina. They're already running at 960. And basically, we want to do that same thing. I'm going to do some more copy and pasting. We just did the gas button. Now we need to go in here and just tweak a few pieces of the word. And go break button, GUI texture width and height. And we'll go see what the break button is. It's 100 by 100 pixels right there. So we will go 100 and 100 pixels. And now we're telling it to be at the Retina resolution. So now the next part of the script is we have it saying, like, if we're running at Retina resolution and it's 960 pixels wide, that we want to take the gas button and the break button GUI textures and tweak their pixel insets and widths to basically match their defaults now because they're already at Retina. So we're going to copy all of this if, hit enter, go down, and we're going to say, alright, well if that isn't the case, then else if running 480, so we're going, okay, if running 480, and it's this exact function up there is plugged in right here. Doesn't matter what you call it. It could be called screen 180 as long as it matches down here and the else if knows to look up here for this. It can be named whatever you want. Screen 480 is fine. Running 480. And basically we have our gas button, width and height, break button, width and height, and we need to tweak those. But since it's running at half the screen resolution, 480, we need to cut these scale in half. So that would be 45. This would be 92.5. And half of 100 would be 50 and 50. And so that's basically our script. We have, I'm going to put some spaces just for the educational. But we have our gas button, our brake button, and the non-existent pause button, which we don't need. And those are our slots to plug in the GUI textures. You saw how they made a public slot in the Unity editor. And then we say, hey, alright, let's start the first set of instruction, which is, hey, are we running screen width 960? And then it says, hey, are we running, it's kind of checking simultaneously at startup, are we running 480 pixels wide? And if so, hey, give us back the info on it. So down here is our, well, hey, if you're running at 960 pixels wide, use the GUI textures at this scale. Else if, like, hey, else, like otherwise, if that doesn't work, or we're not on a device with that pixel width, then use the one that's 480 pixels wide, and it's going to scale it in half. So I'm going to hit Control S, save it, close it, come back in here, and just make sure everything's applied in there. It is, and it's applied to that. And we're at Retina display, so when you hit play now, you're not really going to see any change. They maintain their proportion and size and scale that they would on Retina. So we need to go down, oh, not that far, 480 by 320. You can see it there in the screen resolution, 3GS. Looks jacked because we haven't started the scene yet and run the script. And bam, there you go. They're in the exact same proportion, scale, and size as they would be on Retina, except they've been sized down to fit your 3GS device or your old iPod Touch or whatever. And then when the scene's not playing, they go right back up to their wonderful Retina size. Let me go back down here. 480 by 320. Hit play. It works. And this script that we worked on here doesn't have to be applied to an empty game object. All these functions and these variables can be put right into your existing player script or any kind of script you want. If you feel like putting it on an empty game object and containing it by itself, you can. But this ability really helped me a whole lot, and I hope to do another tutorial on the hit test on GUITextures, which is amazing because I started out using the Unity colliders as triggers and raycast touching the iPhone screen and triggering it. And the colliders, especially when they're really tiny on 3G or 3GS, they just, like me on my fat fingers, it just doesn't respond well. But the GUI hit test, if you want to Google that, which is a touch, it's a way it processes touches on GUITextures without adding anything to them. It just knows the pixel bounds of the texture, and you can do like stationary hold down touches for gas and brake pedals. You can do on touch began, touch ended, swipes. It's really powerful and it's very responsive on the iPhone, and performance is good. So hopefully this tutorial helped some of you guys out. So until next time.